In this section of Chapter 5, we address techniques for generating mental models that employ drawing and sketching. This is important for dual processing. Students process information more deeply when they engage in both linguistic and non-linguistic ways. It is also important for students who struggle with writing. An example of drawing and sketching in this section is pictographs. Pictographs are like graphic representations, except they use stick figures and symbols to represent ideas and content. To help you illustrate, consider the relationship diagram shown below. As you can see, by adding stick figures and relationship symbols, can create a pictogram. Graphic organizers can also be drawn as pictographs. By replacing the text with pictures, the organizer is transformed into a pictograph. Sketching. Sketching can also be used to generate ideas and to support mental work during complex academic tasks. To illustrate, consider the following examples. Sketching can be used in language arts. It is very useful when fleshing out an idea for a composition. A student who is composing a poem might sketch a number of drawings based on the theme of the poem. For example, a student who wanted to write a poem on the theme of silence might be sketching a night scene. He also might sketch a scene from a funeral or an awkward moment with a friend. He adds details to his sketches. He would be able to explore more complex meaning of silence, perhaps coming to the realization that although silence technically refers to an absence of sound, the concept of silence is quite complex and rich with connotations. Sketching can also be used in math. Sketching can help students conceptualize the multiplication of fractions. For example, if a student had an equation 1/8 times 1/2, he might begin by sketching a half circle and then dividing it into 8 equal parts. He would fill in one of those 8 sections. He would then sketch the other half of the circle, which is also divided into 8 equal parts. Then by counting all the patterns and observing that one is shaded, he would reach the answer of 1/16. Sketching can also be used in science. A student could explore the inner workings of a nuclear reactor by sketching the various structures involved in tracking the flow of water and energy. By sketching the reactor core, the paths that water and steam take in and out of the reactor, and the role of turbines and generators in the process of creating energy, she would support her mental grasp of the complex process at work. Sketching can also be used in social studies. For example, a student designing a community park might create a number of sketches to examine how different designs impact issues such as traffic flow, landscaping, irrigation, and safety. By generating many alternative solutions on paper, the student can more effectively weigh the pros and cons of various plans. He could see that placing the playground close to the park might be more convenient for families with strollers, but might also pose a safety risk for children. Flowers and shrubs could add color to the area, but they would require water and maintenance. After consideration, the student might decide that a large mural would be a better way to add color. Another example of drawing and sketching in this section are storyboards. Roger Esley provides an interesting rationale for storyboarding. By an early age, many students have already become intimidated by writing, labeling themselves as bad at it. Consequently, because so much of education is text-dependent, these students often come to think of themselves as unskilled academically. Esley focuses on the use of storyboards to help students learn to confidently read, comprehend, and write. Storyboards are simply sheets of paper with designated boxes in which students draw various elements of a story. They can be used to draw the chronological events of a story. Here is an example of a chronological event of a story. This one is focused on moving. Teachers can also provide more guidance in crafting storyboards. In this picture below, you can see how a teacher can ask students to provide specific details in a story. specifically on Snow White, and how drawings show characterization and understanding of cause and effect. This picture shows a more detailed storyboard. Two boxes are at the top of the storyboard. One box is labeled characters and the other is labeled setting. Students draw the characters in the story as well as something that represents the story's setting. Below the two boxes are 6 smaller boxes in which students draw the major events of the story in a chronological fashion. Finally, there are 3 boxes along the bottom labeled good, evil, and magic, respectively. Students draw the heroes, the villains, and the characters with magic in the appropriate boxes. Another way to use storyboards is to include a close-up storyboard. Students first draw a whole scene and then the details of one part of the scene. This can help students focus on the main characters or ideas of a story. Storyboards can help students become comfortable with informational content such as the parts of speech. Here is an example of a storyboard used to help students with the parts of a sentence. This is called Parts of a Sentence Storyboard. In the first square of this picture, the student writes the horse. He or she connects a visual of the noun with the word representing it. In the second, the student draws the horse jumping and writes the horse jumped. The student has gone one step further by linking a noun to a verb both linguistically and non-linguistically. In the third square, the student draws a horse jumping over a gate and writes the horse jumped over the gate. In the last square, the student draws a horse jumping over the gate at night and writes the horse jumped over the gate at night. Now the student connects modifiers to both the drawings and the sentence. The teacher can use this increasingly complex pictures to demonstrate how language works. Here are a few questions related to what we just went over that I would like for you guys to answer.